So, what does it mean to love somebody? I've asked myself this question many times. I'm 22 years old. I'm not that old, um, but I've been through some stuff, and I realized that there is a difference between what we think we know about love and what love really is. If I'm being completely honest with you, I didn't really know. I couldn't really say I knew what love was until I read the Bible, until I read the script, the gospel, right? The story of Jesus Christ. I couldn't have told you that I knew what love was until then. Even though I have loving parents and I've seen love, firsthand in my family, in other people, right? I could not have told you that I know what love is. If you were to ask me, it would be hard for me to define it. And until I read the Gospels, I understood it. And a lot of people don't understand it in this day and age. A lot of people don't understand it in my generation. And I think it's important to know what it is, because if you don't, then you can't love somebody. At least not the way that you not in the best way possible, right? I'm not saying it's impossible to love without knowing Christ, because other people can be an example of that and show you that example subliminally. But if you don't understand the definition of a word, you won't be able to use the word efficiently. And love is sacrifice. Love is sacrifice. So if you think about it, everything you have is because of the sacrifice of someone before you. Even if you bought your own house, there was a sacrifice that was made. There was a bunch of men that had to construct that house and sacrifice time to build that house. It's not always just, oh, well, I bought it. There is no sacrifice there. No, there's a sacrifice in everything. Even this car that I'm driving right now, somebody sacrificed time to build this. Somebody sacrificed their time to build the car I'm driving right now. Someone sacrificed their time to design the car, engineer it. And so everything involves sacrifice. And if you don't acknowledge that and you understand that, you'll never know what it's like to love somebody, because love is not just a feeling. It's not just a feeling. It does not just boil down to just that. I can agree that there is a feeling behind love, but I can also agree that love is beyond just a feeling. It is, as the Bible defines it, it is patient, it is kind, keeps no record of wrongs. That's not it. I just am reading what I'm remembering, but keeps no record of wrongs. It does not envy, it does not boast. And its power, according to the scripture, love is essentially power. Because when you love somebody, it doesn't matter what situation you're in, mountains can be moved because you trust that person deeply, so you have faith in that person. And I'll give you guys an example, right? So Jesus Christ was persecuted and died, and then he rose again on the third day. But the thing is, everybody in his town loved him so much, and they loved him so much, but they didn't know that he was going to resurrect. They didn't realize that he really said he was going to resurrect and that he was going to resurrect. And so when he had passed away and came back, people were kind of confused. A lot of the apostles didn't believe what was going on, right? And so one of them doubted, which was Thomas, and a lot of them doubted. But he said, I won't, I won't believe until I see him and touch him. And then Jesus showed up and he allowed him to touch him. All right. And then he said, blessed are those who believe and have not seen. All right. So they believe in Jesus, but they haven't seen him. Those people are blessed, right? And then fast forward, a couple years, Jesus leaves. The disciples begin to preach the gospel everywhere they can. And then they get murdered. They get murdered brutally. Almost all of them. Only one of them really didn't die of a murder. John, right? But all 12 of them died a brutal death. They were tortured. They were murdered, right? And they went to the death, to their own death, to proclaim the things that Jesus had told them, because they trusted that even through death, they would make it out alive, because he would bring them life, just like he resurrected himself, right? And that the words that they spoke were more important than their own lives, because it wasn't about their lives, it was about the lives of everyone else. And that's love. To lay down your life for another person is love, because you are basically saying this person's life is more valuable than mine. And I'm not saying our lives are not valuable, but I'm saying if we all lived like the people around us have more valuable lives than us, and we know we hold value, but let me rephrase this, because it sounds bad, it sounds counterintuitive, but that's essentially what Jesus said. He said, he who loves his life will lose it. He who loses his life for my sake will find it. So he's basically saying, like, if you love your life so much so that you're selfish and you choose to just do whatever you want in this world, you're going to lose your life. But if you lose your life for his sake, which means doing his will instead of your own, and following his commands instead of your own, and sacrificing things to bring about his will, then you will find your life, because he is the giver of life. And when he recognizes that you are sacrificing a part of your life, he's going to make sure you don't die. He's going to make sure that you're resurrected. And the reason why I think this all works is because love multiplies. Love multiplies and hate dies. And it's not just a cliche thing I'm saying, it's true, right? Love multiplies like seeds in a garden, right? You got an apple seed. The apple seed turns to an apple tree. The apple tree produces fruit. Those fruit fall. Even if they fall, they perish with seeds in them, and they produce more trees, and so forth. And it's like, if you're a person that loves somebody and that has shown the gospel and believes in Jesus and follows his commands and genuinely loves Jesus Christ, like a true relationship, people will see that in your life. And even if they take it for granted, right, while you're alive, the moment you die, you are like a tree that has bare fruit, and that fruit has seeds in it, and those seeds are already taking place in the soil, and they're just being ready to grow out. That is the life of a Christian person. And it even says in Corinthians, the reason why we bury people 6 feet under, the reason why we bury people when they die is because we are sowing a seed into the ground. A seed is sown perishable, but it is raised imperishable. That's Second or First Corinthians, I don't remember.
You must have had on some really nice pants.
But if you read the chapter, it's saying, it tells you basically why we bury people. And it's like a subconscious thing that God has left in us. We don't even know why we do it. Just like we don't know why we love. But when you read the gospel, you begin to understand the meaning behind all these symbolic things that we do, right? Because humans are strange, right? We just like have traditions that everyone has had since the dawn of time, right? And like no one really questions why we do these things. You can speculate that the reason why we bury people 6 feet under is because we don't want them to smell. We want a place for them to rest, essentially. And it's just like a tradition, I guess. But subconsciously, why do we do that? And it's because we have this hope that if we sow this seed, just like I can plant a tree, that it will spring about with new life someday. And that is the hope of the gospel, that one day we will all be free. One day we will all have life once again, even after death, through Jesus Christ. So I encourage you guys to read scripture more. I encourage you guys to really dial in to what it means to love, to reflect on your life and yourself. Think, am I a loving person? If so, do I even know what love is? Because it's not just a feeling. If it was just a feeling, the apostles wouldn't have gone to their death. Because they would have been like, oh, I don't feel the feeling of love right now, so I'm gonna tell a lie. I'm gonna basically cop out of the death I'm gonna get into. Because I actually don't care about the gospel. I just wanna live. If it was just a feeling, then they would have just folded, you know? There wouldn't have been any there wouldn't have been any brutal deaths. They would have folded. They wouldn't have been murdered for their faith. They would just be chill. But the difference between the love I'm talking about and the feeling that you're talking about, that whoever it's talking about, is that they were able to understand that through their fear, through their adrenaline, through their survival instinct, through all that, it wasn't important as love was. Because what they held in their gospels were love, the story of love. They knew that. And they thought it is more important for us to hold this story and hold our peace of love that is given from God than to keep our own lives. Like, our lives are going to perish anyways. But this message needs to be brought out. This message needs to be delivered and validated, right? Them dying for the gospel represents Jesus dying for the gospel as well, dying for the people. And so I think we should all approach life in that manner in which we die for others. Maybe not literally every time, right? Some people have the opportunity to do that, but not everyone does. And so maybe not literally, but if you can dedicate some time to help other people, dedicate some time and not expect compensation, right? Dedicate time to serve other people, dedicate time to basically just, be there for people. That's love. Because you're sacrificing time and you're getting nothing in return but love.